So I had my wife go through my entire fragrance collection and pick out her favorites. And what I'm gonna do today is rank all of them from best to worst based off of what I think of them. Because there are quite a few of these that I really like, and there are some that are just okay. And so sometimes I'm kind of pushed into wearing those and I don't even really want to. There's a pretty unique variety here. We've got fall, winter, spring, summer scents. She just went through everything and picked out the ones that she really enjoys a lot for me to wear. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with the worst and then work our way up to what I believe to be the best, okay? And so she didn't rank these at all. These are just some of her favorites throughout my collection. This is gonna be my ranking here based off of what I think about them. And really, when you look at what's in here, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, again, this is the type of stuff that I preach over and over again as far as mass-pleasing fragrances that smell really good to people. I mean, these all fit the bill, just with different approaches across the board. So again, starting off with the worst, this one's gonna take the cake out of this list. It's Rasasi Hawas Ice. So she really likes this one. She also really likes the original, but she happened to choose the Ice Flanker. Now for me, between the two, I prefer the original. This one, it's still fine. It's still a good performing summer scent with a ton of mass appeal and versatility, but does have even more of a sweetness to it, which sometimes isn't really welcomed. And that's because the original already has a bit of a bubblegummy sweetness, and even the plum and some of the other fruits and the apple off the opening, it really pushes it in that direction. But this one also really hones in on the apple note and everything like that. So it still does tie back to that original DNA, just a heavier, stronger approach as far as its delivery. It doesn't have as much of an aquatic, kind of fresh, summery feeling to me, which is weird because it's called Hawas Ice. So yeah, I don't really know what they were thinking with that naming convention there, because I don't find it to be fresher. I find it to be quite the opposite. But I still do enjoy it. I still do think it's a good flanker. Right now, it's a little bit more expensive than the original just because it's newer. Over time, I think it'll probably get down to about the same level, but it's still relatively affordable. You know, $50, I don't know, $60. So yeah, out of everything she chose here, this is gonna be my least favorite, and still, it's a pretty darn good scent. Another one that she really likes is John Varvatos Nick Jonas Crimson, and I really like this too. But, I mean, compared to some of the other stuff she chose, this is getting pushed down towards the bottom for me. Now this one has saffron, rum, suede, apple, and like a rum accord in here as well. So, along with coffee too. So it's kind of a kind of boozy, gourmand, sweet scent, which maybe makes sense given the red kind of gradient bottle. I did a video on this one a long while back. I mean, when it first came out. And as I mentioned, I do enjoy it. It's a bit of a different style though, because I mean, typically John Varvatos, for the most part, they do freshies. Now, yeah, you have Dark Rebel Rider, even John Varvatos Oud. Those are some really, really good, heavier, more fall and winter scents, and those are some of their best works. Those were made a while ago, but as of what they're putting out now, you know, they're not as good as they used to be. I mean, this and a lot of the other new John Varvatos releases, they can't hold a flame to some of those OG ones. Vintage, Dark Rebel Rider, and so on, like I just listed off. And even some of the fresher ones as well. Artisan Blue, Artisan Aqua, and even Artisan Pure, which is older, but not as old as some of those. So yeah, I don't think John Varvatos is in the same spot now as they were years ago when they were really pumping out some super creative, unique scents. But for as far as their more modern releases go, this one is pretty good, and it's better than a few of the others. Now we've gotten, I don't know, there's a couple new flankers that have come out here recently that I'm kind of behind on. But I mean, a couple years ago we got Artisan Teal, which was kind of a YSL Y twist. And so they're kind of working the trends just like most designer brands are. Can't knock them too hard for that. Like I said, there's a lot of good fragrances in this video, which kind of pushes this one back a ways. Still, nothing wrong with this stuff. This next one is really, really good as well. And out of this entire video, this might be my wife's favorite, or at least easily top 3. Not necessarily always something that she wants me to wear, but sometimes she steals this bottle and she wears it herself. I mean, this can go both ways, just depending on what you want. It is Luciano Sunset Swim, which is a Louis Vuitton afternoon swim cologne. So it's got a bunch of orange, bergamot, ambergris, ambroxan, fresh, fruity, citrusy with a bit of a salty kind of undertone from the ambroxan in here. It does smell fantastic. Really, really good, relaxing, easygoing summer scent. And like I said, I really like this one a lot, and it's still kind of down here towards the bottom. There's a lot of good fragrances in here, but as we move further along, you'll kind of understand why some of these got pushed back, because some of my all-time favorites also happen to be some of her all-time favorites as well, and maybe part of it's because I wear them a lot, and she's gotten used to it, but oftentimes, too, it seems like our taste has kind of just gotten more similar as years go on, because, I mean, every time I get in a new release, she's smelling it as well, so her nose and her taste is getting built up alongside mine. Next up, we have YSL Y Elixir. So when we were planning this one out, she was down here. She kind of went right towards this one, because when I first got this one in, it was at a time when I didn't have all of my fragrances over here at the new house. And so this was one of the ones that I had because I just had it shipped here. Everything else was at our other house. I was wearing this one almost every day because it was, again, one of the few that I had. I was getting obsessed with it. I was really loving it. My wife was really enjoying it as well. The new Y Elixir, I mean, this stuff, it really grew on me pretty quick. And I understand, as far as price point to what you get, you know, the price to value ratio, it's off the charts given it's an elixir, and it's not like Sauvage Elixir where it's drastically different than the original. It's pretty similar to the Eau de Parfum Intense and maybe a couple of the others. So, you know, there's not as much of a discrepancy, and it might not feel worthwhile for a lot of people to pick this one up. I paid full retail, which is expensive. You don't have to pay full retail anymore. It's been on discounters for a while, and that price, I think, will continue to creep down just a little bit more. It's getting more obtainable, but it's still pricey. I still love how it smells. So does my wife. I think it's a good smelling flanker. It just might not be for everybody as far as making sense financially. And so because of mainly the fact that everything else coming up is just higher up on my list, this one's kind of pushed back too. So we've got an OG up next, something that just never took off. It never got popular, and then it went away before it ever could, really. But this was just a super cool idea that I'm surprised more brands didn't capitalize on. I don't know. It's kind of odd. Sauvage, very cool spray. So you might think that this is like a deodorant spray. That's probably the main thing that set this back, because a deodorant spray, you know, it's going to be expensive for what reason. You can just get deodorant at Walmart that does the same thing. But this is not that. It is quite the opposite. It's an actual eau de toilette. It's actually right up here, okay? Again, guys, this is something people didn't realize. It's an eau de toilette. It is actually a strong performing Sauvage fragrance in an aerosol can. Really, I mean, this stuff, it smells great. It doesn't have as much of the peppery opening as Sauvage EDT. Rather, it actually focuses more on the bergamot as well. So it's a little bit smoother off the top. It has just a really cool atomization process. I mean, you can just hold down on that and it'll just keep going until the bottle runs out. Really, really cool, just pressurized. It smells fantastic. In some instances, I think this smells better than the original Sauvage Eau de Toilette. And there was a point where this was more affordable than the Sauvage Eau de Toilette. Not anymore, obviously. And so I understand this is a discontinued one. This is my wife's list, and I told her just pick out what you want. Just don't go crazy with the hard to find stuff. There was a couple more that could have been in here that I kicked out, but there's a couple that are maybe a bit harder to get, but still some that she really likes. And this is one of them. She loves Sauvage, very cool spray, and I do too. I have a bottle of this stuff in my vehicle at all times. I've got a couple backups down here. It smells great, and just the way that it applies is something fun and unique. Has great performance as well, like I already mentioned. This one was criminally underrated, and that's a shame because now it's gone. Parfums de Marly Greenley. So this one actually surprised me at least a little bit. I knew, right from the start that I liked it. When I got it in, nice green apple with a ton of oak moss, also contributing to the green nature of the scent. But I wasn't for sure, you know, what other people in general were going to think of this one because of that, right? It has a little bit more of a green, earthy, masculine undertone that's less trendy. Take, for example, something like Parfums de Marly Sedley, which is more in line with what's being put out these days, almost kind of like their take on a blue fragrance to some extent. That one you could pretty much smell and just know for a fact that everybody's going to like it. Not so much the case with Greenley. But to my surprise, my wife really likes it as well, which is great because I can wear this one as much as I want when it's warm outside. Now, being that's a Parfums de Marly, it's expensive, and for whatever reason nowadays, they're harder to get at discounters. You know, they might be on discounters, but they might be priced at retail. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Every now and then, a sale will pop up and you can get it for below, but that's kind of just more or less few and far between. A few times a year, a handful of times a year, they hit to that lower price, but for the most part, not so much. There is a clone of this one now, which I haven't gotten yet, but I want to try it, and from what I understand, it's really good. That's going to give you an option for probably $40 or so if you don't want to go this direction, but Greenley, it's one that I really like, and for what it's worth, it is a pretty unique spring and summer scent. So it just keeps getting better and better. This next one goes just all the way back to when I was figuring things out with my collection, so I've had it for a long time, and it's one, especially in spring, I really like to wear. It just smells fantastic. Chanel Allure Homme Sport Eau Extreme. So my wife loves this one as well. She also likes Versace Pour Homme, Chanel Allure Homme Sport, and Missoni Wave. Okay, so those three kind of go together, and this one is an outlier because it's a bit more tonka bean forward and a little bit more sweet and kind of powdery, but all of them kind of somewhat coexist in the same family, especially those three, right? Those are all very similar, and this one is kind of on the outside. So this DNA in general, I think, is just wildly successful, and it makes sense. I mean, there's nothing about this and those that smell polarizing or offensive or anything like that. So if you're just wanting something that is going to help you play it as safe as possible, something like Chanel Allure Homme Sport Extreme or any of those others are always a great option. It's really tough. At the end of the day, if I had to choose either this or those, just kind of lumping all those together, I would still probably choose Sport Eau Extreme. It's just, I love that added depth and sweetness that it has with that mintiness too, which is just a nice combination. Absolutely gorgeous, but man, it's a close one because I love those as well. Okay, next up we have Roja Elysium Eau Intense. So relatively new, and my wife loves the original. That's one of her all-time favorites as well. The Parfum Cologne, the Parfum whatever, right? And the clones as well. Really, it's pretty similar to the original, so if you like the original, you're pretty much guaranteed to like this one as well. And again, maybe it's just me and I don't understand it, but kind of like I was talking about at the very beginning with Hawas Ice, where it's actually sweeter, Eau Intense, it's not more intense. To me, this is actually fresher. So we're kind of playing opposites day here with some of these namings. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, and even Eau Intense kind of contradicts the bottle. This is kind of a frosted glass look with a gradient going on and kind of a gunmetal finish cap instead of gold. So the bottle says Eau Fresh, but the name says Eau Intense. And going off of smell, most importantly, it is fresher to me than the original. Now, it still maintains the exact same vetiver compound that's in Elysium, and that makes that one stand out. Just kind of a clean, soapy vetiver, and then you get all of the fruits and all of the citruses and all of the ambroxan. This one maintains that vetiver, amps up the citrus especially. Still get some of the blackcurrant sweetness, but really hones in on some of the brighter notes. And it does kind of have a little bit of a frosted kind of tonic-y smell to it. Like when you smell the opening of this one, it kind of gives off that impression, you know, something that's a little bit more bright, a little bit more bubbly, a little bit more summery, even though Elysium to me is a summer scent anyway. I love it. Smells great. Elysium Eau Intense, and of course my wife loves it too. So that was the top three. Now we're on to number two here as far as my favorites and how I rank them. This one, I mean, I knew it was going to be in here as far as her picking it out, so I already knew that this was going to be up high, right? And it got shuffled around a little bit based off of her other selections. But it's Acqua di Gio Profondo, a true classic at this point for summertime. We're talking, this was released 4 years ago about, and it's made a big name for itself. A few clones of it out there, but it's really, at the end of the day, hard to beat the real deal, the OG. It's got mineral notes and orange and sea notes. It just has this oceanic, unique, just smell and texture that hasn't been done in any other aquatic fragrance as far as I'm aware. And so it smells different than the original Acqua di Gio. It smells different than all of the others out there. It has this really cool texture. The mineral notes. It smells like mineral water, which is weird sounding, but when you smell this, you pick up on it. It's a real thing. And that's what makes this one so addicting and just so interesting. It really is something pretty cool. And now we have a Profondo Parfum, which is like a nighttime version. At the end of the day, my personal favorite is still going to be the original Profondo. My wife feels the same way. But don't get me wrong, Profondo Parfum is good for an evening out, but it's the freshness of this one is pretty much unparalleled for a hot, humid summer day. At number 1, so what is my favorite? Okay, out of this selection here, this one, it is, you know, it really is. It's light blue Italian love. So it's another one that surprised me, kind of like I was talking about with Greenley, where I smelled Greenley, I loved it, wasn't for sure what other people were going to think just in general. This one, very similar thing. Same with Light Blue Forever. I smelled it. I loved it immediately. But I was even saying in those videos, you know, firsthand, this might not be your everyday super popular mass pleaser like Light Blue O Intense and some of the others, right? Because it's a very, very strong grapefruit smell. But again, to my surprise, my wife loves this stuff. And typically she does do really well with the freshies and the citrus scents, you know, like Afternoon Swim earlier, or Sunset Swim, I guess, same thing, right? It's just very much an orangey, citrusy style. She also really likes Mancera Sicily. If you've smelled that one, it's just all about the fruits and citruses. So she likes this type of stuff. And this one is a grapefruit bomb. You cannot get around it. So that's something that makes this one a bit more polarizing. This, along with Light Blue Forever, it does pop up from time to time. 100 mLs of this were in stock a little bit ago. 50 mLs of Light Blue Forever were in stock a little bit ago as well. You can also go with Fragrance World Feroce, which is a clone of this DNA. So here it is right here, Feroce. This is going to get you pretty much exactly the same as this and Light Blue Forever. This here, Italian Love, has a bit more of a bergamot focus than Forever. This one doesn't have as much of the bergamot. So this is more of a clone of Forever, but they're all so close, it's splitting hairs. I mean, like I've said before, this is almost about as spot on as I could ever imagine a clone to be. It's one of the most accurate clones I've smelled. Smelling that opening, it's incredible. It would be super hard to tell them apart if I didn't know better. Alrighty guys, that's gonna do it for me. Those are some of my wife's favorite fragrances, and that's kind of how I rate them from best to worst. I will link each and every one of these down below, make it super easy for you to pick some of these up if you're interested. I've got a mailing list and a texting list you can sign up to as well. Every time something rare, discontinued, hard to find comes into stock, I send out a notification. We just had Labo Paradise Garden pop up, sent out a text. Make sure you're on that list and you'll get first dibs on stuff like that. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll see you tomorrow with another one. Take care.